Lola's home was alive with the quiet chaos of a new baby. The soft coos of the infant, the gentle rustle of blankets, and the warm aroma of freshly cooked meals filled the space. Yet, beneath the surface, tension lingered. Her husband, still distant and irritable after the birth, seemed untouched by the joy that should have surrounded them. His harsh words and cold demeanor made the house feel heavy, and Lola found herself treading carefully around him, speaking softly, hoping not to provoke yet another conflict. Fortunately, she was not alone. Their mother had come to stay for a while, lending her hands and heart to help with the baby. She moved quietly through the house, preparing meals, tidying up, and offering comforting words to Lola. Her presence was a steadying force, a reminder that even in stormy times, family could be a sanctuary. Another constant in Lola's life was Mr. Xavier. He had rescued Bayo from the streets years ago, guiding him through school and supporting him until he became a radiologist. Despite the years, he remained in close, warm contact with the family. His calls and occasional visits were a source of encouragement, reminding Lola of the power of kindness and consistency in relationships. On a quiet afternoon, Lola's phone buzzed. It was Tinu. The sound of her sister's voice brought an immediate sense of calm. "How are you holding up?" Tinu asked, her tone gentle but full of concern. Lola sighed. "It's hard, Tinu. He's still so difficult. I feel like nothing I do is right. I just want to cry sometimes." Tinu's voice was steady, comforting, and full of wisdom. "I know it's hard, Lola, but remember, marriage is a journey, not a battlefield. Keep praying. Keep showing love, even when it's not returned in the way you hope. Patience now will bring peace later." Lola felt a small warmth seep into her heart at her sister's words. "I'm trying. I really am. But it's exhausting." "I know, dear," Tinu replied. "Just remember, God sees your efforts. Keep trusting Him and don't lose hope. Things will shift, even if slowly. Lean on your mum and anyone who can support you. You're not alone." Lola smiled faintly, the tension in her shoulders easing just a little. "Thank you, Tinu. I needed to hear that." As she ended the call, Lola looked around the room, her baby sleeping peacefully, her mother humming softly in the kitchen, the warmth of family surrounding her. It didn't erase the difficulties with her husband, but it reminded her that love and patience could anchor her in even the stormiest times. And with Tinu's encouragement and the quiet support of those who truly cared, Lola felt ready to face each new day with hope, prayer, and resilience. Chief Aidwale always checked on Daniel and family, but he was not aware of his daughter's predicament. Lola decided not to let this storm break her. She decided to do something about it. She started praying, committing her home and Daniel's heart to God's hands according to the Bible, Prov 21:1. "The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, as the rivers of water. He turneth it whithersoever he will." And Philippians 2:13. "For it is God who worketh effectually in you both to will and to perform of his good pleasure." She started to rise each morning with a quiet determination to weather the storm and to pray daily, standing upon these scriptures and more. Though sadness still lingered, it no longer ruled her completely. Lola discovered that strength could exist alongside pain. Each new day brought its own silent battles. She learned how to smile on the outside while carefully gathering the broken pieces of her heart within. She spoke less, listened more, and chose her words with caution, knowing how quickly kindness could be met with cruelty. Her husband's harshness continued, unpredictable like a storm. Some mornings he barely acknowledged her presence. Other days, his words were laced with sarcasm and blame. Yet whenever outsiders appeared, his demeanor transformed, effortlessly soft-spoken, patient, admirable. Lola had been so resilient in all these. She put the whole of her trust in God, believing Him fully for divine intervention. She never uttered a word to her father about what is happening in her home. Chief Aidwale called Lola's husband, checking on them. He told him to relate his message to Lola. God is always faithful to His word. Lola had been praying. She never knew that her answers were closer than she could ever thought. Something is about to shift, though change does not always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it begins quietly, in a place no one notices, with a gentle nudge from God. One evening, after the baby was asleep and the house settled into silence, he picked up a book he had been casually reading. He opened it and began a story about a man who had been harsh and cruel to those closest to him. The man's bitterness had alienated his loved ones, and only when he faced the consequences of his own actions did he begin to understand the pain he caused. At first, he read the story as he always did, half interested, thinking it was just another tale. But as he turned the pages, something felt different. The words seemed to reach beyond the paper, quietly tugging at the corners of his heart. He read of the wife who endured in silence, who loved despite harsh words, and of the children who longed for tenderness that never came. Each line made him pause. Each scene felt like a mirror, reflecting not the story, but his own life. A strange heaviness settled in his chest. For the first time, he began to see the truth of his actions. The cruelty he thought could be hidden behind charm, the words that cut deeper than he had imagined, the fear and sadness he had forced into his wife's eyes. God was speaking. He could feel it not as a loud command, but as a quiet, undeniable voice in his spirit. Do you see the pain you are causing? Do you see what your heart has done to the ones I love? For the first time, he did not dismiss it. He did not rationalize. He sat in silence, letting the story sink in. Regret stirred within him, fragile but undeniable. The mask he wore so carefully, the calm, charming man the world admired, felt a little too heavy, a little too hollow. That night, he did not shout. He did not criticize. He did not demand. He sat quietly, reflecting on the words of the story, seeing his own reflection within it. The seed of change had been planted, and God had begun to speak directly to his heart. He did not yet know what steps he would take, or if he would ever truly change. But the first crack had appeared, and through that crack, light had begun to enter, a gentle, persistent light that would not be ignored. And somewhere, unseen, Lola prayed faithfully, unaware that God was already answering her cries, not through confrontation, not through another person, but through the quiet work of His Spirit in the heart of the one who had caused her pain. Olufemi David was a changed man. Chief Aidwale called that. He was coming for a conference in Abuja. Healing did not arrive with noise or celebration. It came gently like morning light slipping through a once broken window. Lola noticed it first in the little things. The way Daniel now greeted the children each morning with warmth instead of haste. The way he really listened when Lola spoke. The way his prayers were no longer rushed words, but heartfelt conversations with God. The house began to breathe again. One Saturday evening, laughter filled the living room. The children sat close, sharing stories from school while Daniel teased them playfully. Lola watched from the doorway, her heart full and cautious, all at once afraid the joy might vanish if she blinked. But it didn't. Single quotes T. Daniel caught her gaze and smiled. A real smile. One she hadn't seen in years. "Come sit with us," he said gently. She did. That night they ate together, not as people enduring each other, but as a family rediscovering itself. There were jokes, shared memories, and moments of silence that felt safe instead of heavy. Later, as the children slept, Daniel turned to Lola. "I know healing takes time," he said. "I'm willing to walk it slowly, faithfully with you." Lola nodded, tears glistening. For so long, she replied softly, I prayed for peace, not knowing it would start here. She reached for his hand, not out of duty, but choice. Days turned into weeks, and joy began to settle in. The scars didn't disappear, but they no longer bled. Trust was being rebuilt brick by brick, prayer by prayer. One morning, Lola stood alone in the kitchen, sunlight dancing across the floor. She lifted her hands and whispered, Lord, thank you. I survived the storm, but you didn't stop there. You healed me. You healed us. Her heart was no longer heavy. Her joy was no longer forced. It was real. And in that restored home, laughter returned not as a stranger, but as family.